Drew Hancock, I'm so excited to chat with you today about your film Companion. How are you feeling with now we've revealed the trailer has revealed part of this movie. People are now even more excited. How does it feel to have be one step closer to this movie coming out into the world?
It feels strange for sure. I mean, this whole experience, I use the word surreal a lot, and it's true. I feel very disconnected from the whole process because we're actually almost 4 years away from the moment I sat down and started writing the script, like January of 2021. So to be like in this position talking about the movie, it's crazy to have made a movie, have it yeah, to make a movie at all is just a miracle. And to have it get released in a theatrical release in this day and age is also again surreal. It's all surreal. I don't know. I don't know what to do. My
Yeah.
my head is exploding.
It's like cool, yay, I'm so excited and terrified all at the same time. And it's especially since 4 years, like you've been sitting with this for so long, it feels like you're
Yeah.
finally like pushing it out of the nest to go along with like a parenting metaphor. That's how it feels, it
Oh,
feels like.
yeah, totally. And I feel the nerves that my mom, I remember how like my mom like leaving me at college is such a perfect analogy of how scared she was. And that's how I am like a parent with this child that's about to go out in the world. Because I saw Nosferatu last night, and they had a trailer for Companion, and I stayed outside the theater because I was like, I don't know. Are people going to react? Are we going to get booze? What's going to happen? So I came in conveniently after I heard it like end, and I was just like, yep, do, yep,
I love
nothing,
that.
no
You're
big
like,
deal.
nope,
Yeah,
nope. I'm gonna just sit out here and let everyone experience it, and I don't need to know how they feel about it. Like
yeah,
as
yeah,
long as much as you know, they love it. But
yeah.
uh, so we've talked previously, but for anyone who hasn't heard our previous interview, I would love to hear like how artificial intelligence factored into the script for you, and if that was a launching off point for you, or if that came in later in terms of the writing process with the script.
Yeah, that came in later.
Okay.
Like every project is different for me about like, sometimes I come up with a character, sometimes I come up with just like a visual. This one, weirdly enough, it's just such a strange kind of inception point because I just had the log line. I like immediately in my head, it popped into this idea of like, oh, three couples go to a cabin in the middle of the woods. One of them finds out they're a robot going to be shut down, and that was the jumping off point. And I hadn't really thought about like the implications of AI, where we are.
Yeah.
That came through research. Just kind of, I didn't want to bog it down. Like I knew that I wasn't going to make Ex Machina, so I didn't want to bog it down
Yeah.
with like tech jargon. It's just that's also just not very interesting to me. I like the more emotional components of it. So my version of research was just where are we with this technology? How far out is it? When is it conceivably like the earliest like we could see something like Iris existing? And from my research, it was around 15 years is what they were saying. This could be, which as a writer, I was like,
Really?
oh, thank God that's so soon, because now I don't have to like make it look like Minority Report and have all this like
But
this just crazy tech. And so I was like, 15 years, that's great, that's doable. So I can like keep it like kind of timeless, and there could be electric cars that look at like today's electric cars, and there'd be like little kind of maybe like the self-driving thing, but you could still kind of hide behind the look and feel of something timeless and today, which was that's I yeah, that was all I needed, was to find, okay, 15 years, I get that's good, that's great, I can do that.
hopefully we're not going to be too different in 15 years. It's like you said, it's not going to have like the big crazy screens where we're typing and like in the air and all that stuff. Like it does.
Yeah.
And I love that though about this movie because especially with the location, which I want to ask about in a second, but it makes it feel a little bit out of time and place. Like it obviously is very futuristic technology here, but it at the same time with the way that Sophie Thatcher's dressed and like there's just a lot of things about this that I think are so interesting in how you play with set like where this is set and in terms of time and playing with the expectations of like, wait, is this now? Is like when is this? And I love that aspect of Companion and playing with your expectations of when are we?
Hmm. Yeah,
It's cool.
yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, that I mean that comes from a combination of like, like the intentionality being like, uh well, when I'm writing a movie, I'm not aware that the marketing is going to reveal that she's a robot, obviously. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking like I got to hype. This is like a magic trick, and I have to kind of sleight of hand the audience and make them feel like it's present day. And then obviously, luckily, it happens very early in the movie, so like the marketing
Yeah.
spoiling it, it isn't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's detrimental to like the viewing of the movie, but also it's like just being open-minded with ideas that Sophie has, with ideas that the production designer has about like how do we make this feel future but not future,
Yeah.
yeah, man, like little mandates, like no screen, no swiping in midair swiping Minority Report, no screen. I didn't want screens anywhere. I didn't want a television. That was easy to explain by just making Sergey a guy that just he has a CD player. He's a guy that hates technology. He has a gas powered car. Like he's a guy that is living in the past. So that made it very easy. And then as far as Sophie and her wardrobe. I would love to talk more about that. I mean, like
I'd love to
a
hear
lot
about
of
it.
that. I mean, it's all her because
Oh, really? Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, yeah. I try to whenever I'm writing characters, I don't write for specific actors. I try to keep them kind of amorphous because
Oh, okay, cool.
I've worked in this like industry long enough to know that as soon as you think of an actor in mind, they say no, and then you're like heartbroken and you have no like I don't know. I was always thinking about it being
You put all your eggs in one
X.
basket in your head, and you're like, wait, what
Yeah.
do I do now? Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of keep them cloudy, and then once you start, when you find like your Sophie Thatcher, then suddenly you can go, okay, well, how would I want Sophie to be comfortable? Like, what are her ideas? Like the wardrobe she would wear? Because before that, it was kind of like, all right, we're talking with the costume designer with no actor in mind. We came up with this idea of like 90s Britney Spears, like kind of like male gazy, like let's just make her like just from a guy's perspective what he would dress his like doll up with.
Oh, okay.
And it's clearly, Sophie would not look right
I
in
was
that
gonna say that's
outfit.
so funny imagining her in that outfit.
No, and I think we tried a couple dresses on her, and it's just, yeah, that's not her. So we kind of had to recalibrate, like, okay, what would she is like being dressed by a man, so it's like what is his ideal woman, and filtered that through like what's best for Sophie and what she likes and what she could draw from. She came up with the whole like 60s like French New Wave like Anna Karina like looks, and she made this like 20-page lookbook with how she looked, she had like sees the character dressing, and
Wait,
it
that's so
as soon as we
cool.
yeah, it was so cool because then it became like she has just kind of like like a I can't describe it. I mean, like that's what's great about it. It's indescribable. It doesn't feel like you could put that character in like a box that's been so she made it her
Yeah.
own.
That's
And that's
so
the yeah, that's the most fun part of the movie making process is the collaboration
I
and
was gonna say
realizing that yeah,
that collaboration is so awesome, and to see what actors like. I feel like people don't realize like actors don't just like don't always just show up and like, oh hey, I'm here, and then they leave. Like it's such a
yeah.
they
Although
are
there are some
artists.
that do that. There
There
are
are
some that do
some,
that.
there are some, but
Yeah,
there are
yeah.
a
But I
lot of
don't. Yeah,
actors who are so into the role, like take these roles and really. I feel like, especially when I talk to people about horror, like a lot of these performers just love these characters, and it's really awesome to hear how much she loved this character and how she was so dedicated to bringing her to life in like a really interesting way. I think that's awesome. And that's gonna feel good for
yeah,
you as a
yeah.
first time like featured director to be like,
Hmm.
you love this much and like you're willing to do all this. Like you wouldn't do this if you didn't care. And it's nice to feel like other people care about your work. Because I know as like a filmmaker myself, it's so easy to feel like you're in a vacuum.
Oh my
And
God,
so
yes.
that's
I
gotta
mean,
be so nice.
yeah, yeah.
You're
That's
like,
it. We could do a whole other podcast about like the therapy for people that have directed or are directing a movie. But let's save that for a little, maybe another episode or just later in the episode. But get going
later.
back, going back to what you're saying, yeah, like that you feed off of each other's enthusiasm. That's the fun. If I went in with that Alfred Hitchcock mentality of like when he talks about the making of a movie, he hated the making of movies because it was already existed in his head, and so it just became filmmaking, was just kind of like transcribing his thoughts, which of course that's going to be boring and like you would feel like a slog. You need a reason to wake up in your hotel room at 5 in the morning and be excited and because coffee just wears off pretty soon. So You need to
Yeah.
like feed off the enthusiasm. And then yeah, and then the other thought I was thinking about that collaboration is like a lot of people I think look at the job of a director as like as that how Hitchcock like you do it this way, you know, this is the way it's supposed to be, this is the way it's in my head, where really it's your job is setting the you know the guardrails. It's like this is the extremes are here and here. Where in this like path do you want to take it? And because there are wrong ways, there are like if you go too far in either direction,
Yeah.
yeah, it's more about like course correcting and just making sure that they're like staying true to the overall story and not telling them this is how it is, but this is what it could be, I would say.
Yeah. And I love the storytelling of the location. Like you obviously found a great was did you shoot it all on location or was any of it soundstage? Was it all in that house?
Well, we had to shoot 2 days on the soundstage because of New York, like has some crazy tax
Um,
rule. So if you shoot in New York, you have to just for like to pay union workers, you have to have 2 days on the soundstage. So we had to kind of
oh.
force a couple days. Like the like Sergei's closet was on a soundstage, but not because we could have easily just shot in the house on a soundstage. So that was just
Oh.
purely paperwork reasons. But
Weird how
yeah, it
that
was
works and what you learn
yeah.
about that stuff too. Of like what
Yeah,
is
no, the producing aspect is so fascinating. I wish I knew more about it because you know um uh your your money can go you could like pinch a penny or you can you know spend overspend on something, and I think a lot of like writer directors aren't so aware of like how sometimes money is wasted, whereas if you just went like oh hey look if we shot at this location it would cost X amount of money versus like oh that could have just taken place somewhere else. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited about like the idea of like learning the producing side of things because I think you just as a
Cool.
filmmaker, it just makes you better because you can spend money in the correct ways because it's so easy to just waste. It's such a wasteful industry. But it's touch a sidetrack. You were talking about the location, which
Yeah.
you know we now I'm talking about yeah getting very
No, but
philosophical
I'm like,
about
yeah, yeah,
direct yeah
uh-huh.
producing. Yeah, that location we lucked out, honestly. Like it was we I went up to you know the whole East Coast and did some location scouting early in 2023, and we looked in like Connecticut, New York, Hudson Valley area, Massachusetts, and we did some like we sent a scout out in Vermont or not Vermont, sorry, Vancouver,
Oh wow.
um, and yeah, it ended up being one of the first batches of houses that we got. It was in the Hudson Valley area, and it I didn't realize this at the time. And it was super secluded. Of course, we had to kind of bolster it with visual effects to make it look even more secluded because there are houses and stuff. But I didn't really think about what the location like kind of symbolized, which is it's a really weird house. Like if you look at it from the outside, it's like a kind of a Frankenstein house where there's just a ton of
Yeah.
different styles and like architecturally it's very weird, and it's like oh that's kind of what the movie is like. It's like all these tones kind of mashed
Yeah.
together that kind of serendipitously kind of fits the like what the movie is. So yeah.
Amazing. That's
And
awesome.
we almost lost. I mean, you know, we almost lost that house too. They changed it because we had to stop shooting halfway through because of the SAG strike. So we shot 3 weeks and then we had to sit. So
Oh.
one of the bad things about having a location is you need to make sure you have that location 6 months later. And the owner sold the house like when we were on hiatus. It was if they had sold it to the you know buyers that didn't want to have a movie shot there, I don't know what we would have done. But um,
Well, thank God they were cool.
just they were cooler than the original owners. They were great, and they were so excited about having a movie there. And it was just a smooth transition. And they let us, you know, they let us kind of run rampant for you know the 3 more weeks we had to shoot there. So we really lucked out in that because that could
Oh,
have
that's
backfired, and
I swear to
I don't
God,
know what we would have done.
making movies is just a series of those weird things happening, and you're like, I don't know who's smiling down upon me, but thank you,
Yeah.
like omniscient cinema god. Like I appreciate your smiling and nodding upon our production.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah. There's a lot of things out of
making
your control. Yeah.
making movies really is a miracle. It is wild.
Yeah. And it's
Um,
funny how like the days that you go in going like, well, this is an easy day because this is just two people talking. And then, like example is the moment where Josh folds Eli in on the plan if they're sitting on the dinner like the outdoor table and he reveals the mod and you're like, oh, it's just three people talking at a table. That'll be the easiest thing to shoot. And not just like lighting changes because the cloud cover just kept changing and changing and changing,
oh,
but
the cloud
like
cover.
the cloud cover. And then, you know, 50 yards away, some poor deer had got caught in a fence and died.
No.
And was like there was a rotting deer carcass like out just off frame. We didn't know what it was. We was like, is it a sewage problem? What's happening? But it smelled so pungent and awful. So when you watch that scene, you see those three characters like that is acting because it was like it was so bad that it made your eyes sting. That's how awful the smell was. So
God.
you never know what's gonna like be an obstacle for shooting.
You also like never know what's going on behind the camera. You're like, what weird like other thing like of life is happening, and the
Yeah,
actors have to just pretend it's not happening. That is wild. Oh,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
wild. Wow. And before we wrap up, I did want to say Harvey Guillen's performance. I feel like he's kind of like he snuck up on me with how he's so good in everything, but he really sneaks up with like stealing the show a little bit in this movie. So I wanted to hear about casting him and bringing him in because he is just so funny, but like so smart and fast and quick.
Yeah, I would say the casting of Harvey was probably the easiest because he just
Oh,
was on a
sweet.
list of names. Whereas earlier you get a list of names and you go, okay, who's maybe this person, and no one agrees, and all the producers are chiming in, and everyone else is chiming in, and you're like, I don't know. That was like it was. Who do we want for Eli? And the casting director, Nancy Nair, fabulous casting director, sent a list of possible Elis, all shapes and sizes. And Harvey Guillen was just in the middle. And I think like everyone on the email chain was like, yeah, 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 Harvey's perfect. Let's do Harvey. Let's do Harvey. Let's do
That's so
Harvey.
nice. Like, oh, thank God we all can
Uh,
agree on one thing. It's a good
yeah,
time.
yeah. Yeah, and he was available, which was great, and he was a sweetheart. So the casting gods, sometimes they're smiling on you, where other parts were much more difficult to cast. But yeah, he was great, and he elevated the role, like so easily. That could have been just like a role you could just dismiss as just a side character. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, he could totally just be a guy that just checks in and checks
Yeah.
out. So
But like that's what I think is great about this movie is all these characters, no matter how long they're in the film or how long they appear, they feel like part of the world. They don't feel like it feels shocking when certain things happen. So yeah,
yeah,
it's cool. I like that writing style because again, it's not in horror, you're always like, I know the first person who's going to like have something bad happen to them because I know how tropes work. And it's cool
yeah.
when a film is like, I don't think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do something a little bit different. And it's as a person who watches so much horror, it's nice to be kept on your toes for once. So I greatly appreciate that. I know Terry said the same thing to you. So hats off to you for in 2025 making a movie that keeps you on your toes.
Thank you. It's not easy.
No,
Everything's been done.
and when you
Everything's been
write
done
and when you
before.
and like when you're writing it, you're probably like, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but it sounds good to me on the page. Like that's
Oh, yeah, and you can't control what other movies are coming out. I mean, like AI is a very popular like subject for movies, so you didn't know if we were going to get kind of
yeah,
like someone else was going to come out with a kind of similar story.
yeah,
There was a not to make this conversation any longer, but there was a moment
yeah,
where Iris is actually going to be like the antagonist of the movie. And very early on, I made the call because I was relating to her so much when I was writing it that to make that switch. And just going back to what we were saying, like if I hadn't done that, Megan ended up coming out like 6 months after I had written the script. So if I had committed to this idea of her being like the AI gone wrong, it would have just seemed like every other movie
yeah.
that was being made. So that was
Hell yeah. Hey, and
very like a lot of
I
luck, a
love
lot of luck.
I love It's like it's not Ex Machina, but it's like if anyone needs a comp, it's like Ex Machina, less sciency, and her perspective wholly, which I love a lot. Of We're seeing her perspective being sexualized as a robot. It's just an interesting perspective, and I love that. So, everyone, Companion, theaters, January 31st. Please go check it out. 2025 starting strong. So, Drew, this has been so great to chat with you again about
Thank you
Companion and
very
pick your
much.
brain a
Yeah.
little bit about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is great.